Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here on the west coast of Canada. I hope that everybody is having a superb week so far. I hope that you're all healthy, strong, and positive. Welcome, Janelle. Hi, Slow Sunset Vibes. Students, this is a members chat class. Everybody is welcome to watch. Click the join button next to the subscribe button to become a member. This class is an IELTS Task 2 writing class that will focus on an essay about self-driving cars or vehicles. And this question was sent to us by one of our members. And I believe this was actually the Task 2 question on one of the recent IELTS exams. So just right off the bat, keep in mind that it's impossible to predict the exact topic of your IELTS exam, but IELTS does like to kind of choose popular topics that are current for Task 2 and sometimes for speaking as well. So that's kind of another tip about how you should think of your IELTS exam and what you can expect. So this one is Task 2 writing, self-driving cars. Again, this class is a members chat class. It is brought to you by aehelp.com and gieltshelp.com for many video lessons, strategies, and practice exams. Visit us there. You can get our apps, Academic IELTS Help, GIELTS Help. You can also follow us on Instagram. And the websites that you're looking for, and we use these websites regularly, are here. Let me show you this. This is our Academic IELTS website at aehelp.com. Just click this big red button to join our premium IELTS package. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access, so it's really well worth your investment when you're getting ready for the IELTS exam. We're one of the most popular IELTS sources to get ready for the test for sure. We're an official IELTS test registration center and certified agents. For general IELTS, it's the green background. Again, click this big red button there to join the premium IELTS package. Once again, it's not expensive, it's well worth it, so make sure to check that out. And we even have a discount code for you, which is this one band up, and you get a 20% discount. And actually, there's only 4 days left on this discount code, so make sure to use it. All right, students, so again, our live class schedule has slightly changed because of daylight savings here in Canada, where I'm broadcasting from. So we've moved our clocks back an hour, which means the classes will be 1 hour earlier for many people who are in countries where you don't have daylight savings or you don't have daylight savings yet. Hi Lamia, hi Saeed, hi May. Nice to see some of our newer members coming into the class as well. All right, perfect. Good. So again, if you have questions, send me an email. My email is adrian@aehelp.com. We will get back to you within about 24 hours of your email. So here's our Task 2 writing question for today. And the idea is to plan, structure, and write your essay. So today we're going to focus a lot on the planning, and we will start to write the essay together. Okay, the idea here, members, is to work together. So I do have the chat on my screen here as well, so I see what's going on, and I really hope that you kind of follow with me and you're active and you participate in the lessons. Okay, so in this lesson, so here we go. Let's start by reading this question. Okay, the very first step in the writing is to read the question carefully. Now, remember that in the IELTS exam, you have already been reading for about an hour because of the reading section. So a lot of students they're a little bit exhausted from reading. They may have been reading quickly. There might have been some skimming and scanning going on. So make sure that you take a deep breath when you read these questions in the writing section, to read them a little bit slower and with extra attention. Okay, so don't just rush through them like maybe a paragraph in the reading passage. Okay, so here, IELTS writing task 2. Okay, you should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Definitely spend 40 minutes. Scientists predict in the near future cars will be driven by computers, not people. Do you think it is a positive or a negative development? Give explanations and examples to support your opinion. Okay, let's jump over to our syllabus here. All right, and again, just a reminder, aehelp.com, glshelp.com, that's where you want to check us out. All right, and we have our question here again. So the first step that you should take, and this is the first step when you're at home practicing or during the IELTS exam, is just to paraphrase the question. And it's not because it's your introduction, but it's because it helps you to clearly understand the question, think about some vocabulary, think of some ideas. Okay, so for ideas, vocabulary, and clarity, paraphrase the question. Okay, all right, so let's do that. So here, scientists predict in the near future cars will be driven by computers, not people. Do you think it is a positive or a negative development? Okay, so I'm going to do my best here. Keep it simple. Okay, so there is my paraphrase, and again, just keeping it fairly simple here, okay? So instead of scientists, I use the word experts, because scientists are considered experts, right? So there's already a nice kind of paraphrase synonym for some vocabulary, okay? And then another way to say predict is to use the word forecast, okay? Like forecasting the weather, okay? Predicting the weather. In the near future, all right, near future, I'm already using some quantification here, and this is always a good reminder that numbers are friends in communication, both in oral and in written communication. So instead of saying in the near future, within the next 50 years, okay, so give a time frame, right? Maybe even sooner, but I think that 50 years is realistically a near future. That's within, one generational lifetime, right? And then instead of cars, I have the word vehicles. And instead of the phrase will be driven by computers, I have the phrase will be controlled by AI, so will be controlled by artificial intelligence. And then not people, not human drivers, okay? So again, just kind of looking at words, looking at phrases to paraphrase and start getting some ideas around this question, Okay, so that's what you want to do, right? If you can't come up with words, use a thesaurus, all right, especially at home when you're practicing, okay? So when practicing at home, if you are having difficulty coming up with good synonyms, use a thesaurus. Okay, thesaurus is basically a synonym dictionary. All right. Okay, so we've got some work here by Cass, and Cass is, I saw Cass that you're not in your office right now, so you've got a bit of time to do this. Okay, good. So Cass says, most experts forecast that in the distant future, 40 years from now, vehicles will be maneuvered by AI and not human drivers. Will it be useful or a disturbance? Okay, Cass, not bad. One mistake here, Cass, be careful, is the word distant. This is not distant future, right? It's quite opposite to the question. Here it says near future, so don't confuse that, okay? That in the close future. Okay, and then here you have a descriptive clause, so you need comma on both ends of that descriptive clause, 40 years from now. Okay, so just a couple of small mistakes, but be careful. This one is a bigger mistake because it's the opposite of the intended meaning. Okay, all right, careful with that. So IELTS really pays attention to that type of coherence mistake, so careful. Okay, this is Rashika. So Rashika writes, all right, scientists prognosticate cars will be driven by digital devices instead of individuals. Prognosticate, it's a bit awkward here. That's more of a medical term, Rashika. It's not, I mean, it's comprehensible, but it's just a little bit awkward. And instead of scientists, you could use the word experts or authorities or specialists in the field, engineers, you know, so there are definitely some better words there. Let's use engineers, because it's mostly computer engineers, software engineers, AI engineers, automobile engineers that are the ones who are predicting this accurately. So engineers, and then instead of predict, you can even use the word infer, right? Because we're already kind of going towards these automatic or self-driving vehicles, okay? So engineers infer, instead of cars, there's a lot of ways to paraphrase cars. So you can say vehicles or automobiles, okay? Transportation. So let's use automobiles, all right? Will be driven by digital devices instead of computers. All right. Yeah, okay, we can stick with that. And that's not a deal breaker. Okay, let's highlight these changes here. Instead of individuals, sure. Not what about your perspectives? What are your perspectives of this development? Okay. And question mark, of course, right? It's a question. Is it an advantage or a disadvantage? Sure. Okay, good. All right, so there's a couple of different paraphrasings, and that's how you do it. All right, now we've got some ideas. Okay, what's the topic? So what are we talking about? This should be pretty simple in this case. So if you get this kind of a task 2 question, it's somewhat fortunate because the topic is going to be fairly straightforward. Okay, so the topic is what we are writing about. Okay, and Jyoti says the topic is basically driverless cars. Yep, so we can just when you're picking out the topic, Jyoti, it's good to stick to the topic that's shown in the original question. So the topic in the original question is this here. It's driven by computers. Okay, so basically we can change it a little bit, but we should stay pretty close to what we have in the question. So computer-driven cars. Okay, basically computer-driven cars. That's the topic, right? That's what we're talking about. Right? Driverless cars and self-driving cars, those are okay, but just for the sake of accurate thinking, for clarity, stick to the topic that's in the question, okay? So when you identify the topic, it is important to use the presented topic in the question as closely as possible. Okay, everybody got that? Can I see some thumbs up there? That's quite an important point that I just made there, and it's not one that I have emphasized too much in the past, but definitely I'm emphasizing it for you now. So everybody got that? So when you're identifying the topic, ideally you are staying as close as possible to the topic as it is presented to you in the question, because if you start to paraphrase it, if you start to make it your own, it can lead to off-topic ideas, and if not off-topic ideas, it can definitely lead to less effective critical thinking. Okay. All right, Cass, Saeed, Rahul, Rashika, Tatiana, I see those thumbs up, so that's great. Okay, yeah, so computer-driven cars. All right. And the controlling idea, again, the controlling idea, stick to what's in the question. So here, fairly straightforward again for the controlling idea. Is it a positive or negative development, right? So there we go. All right. So fairly straightforward here, looking good. Now, when you have a straightforward question and straightforward topic and a straightforward controlling idea, you still need to do quick and effective critical thinking. So just because an idea might be clear doesn't mean that you should just jump right into the essay and start writing without giving it further thought, okay? So even when you have an easy, let's call it an easy task 2 question, it is still very important to do some critical thinking before you embark on your essay writing. Okay, embark here. Just teaching you some vocabulary, it means start. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's do this. So the next question is to just apply critical thinking, simple questions. So apply the questions: what, why, and how. Okay, all right, so just apply those questions. So what is a self-driving car? What is a computer driven car? Okay, give me some answers here, students. So what is a computer-driven car? Visualize this, think about it, okay, and give me a clear definition. This definition becomes an important part of your introductory paragraph because you need to show your reader that you have an understanding of what is meant by a computer-driven car, okay? Welcome to our new member, Games Lover, or I think returning member, Games Lover. Okay, all right. So Saeed says a car that can be driven itself without driver attendance. Okay. Without drivers. Yeah, that's okay, Saeed. Try to think of the best definition, right? So think of a few different definitions and think of the best definition. Okay. All right. Yeah, so Cass says it is powered by AI or software codes driven by computer programs. Okay, so it is a robotic car that is controlled by, what is a computer, right? And that's where this question becomes interesting. Like, what is a computer? Okay, so that is controlled by hardware and software. Instead of a human. Yeah. And I would say very complex hardware and software, right? Romaine says it's a kind of self-driven car. That's right, Romaine, but again, go one step further, right? So you always want to go one step further, and you want to think about, okay, well, what is that self-driven car? What makes up? What are the components of that self-driven car? So it's a robotic car that is controlled by complex hardware and software instead of a human, okay? All right. Saeed says with cameras, GPS sensors. Yeah, so that would be the hardware component of it, right? So this is where you get into deeper thought. Hardware would be chips, sensors, right? So and so on. And software would be, of course, communication and decision-making software. If we really want to get technical, but for the IELTS, you probably don't need that level of technicality or insight. I mean, if you were doing a university essay, then yes, you want to take it obviously further. But as long as you have this kind of first piece here in your definition, I think you're on the right track, okay? All right, so what's the next question? Okay, so when we're thinking about the what, why, how of the topic and the controlling idea, we need to think about the right questions, of course, because there are different ways and different what, why, how questions. So we want to ask these what, why, how questions, right? So what would be the why question for the topic? Okay. And that's right, Cass. Yeah, we would have software coding by software engineers. You'd probably have software that's learning software as well. So yeah, all of those parts. Don't go too far down the rabbit hole. Remember, you only have 40 minutes in task 2, so you need to be quick. Romaine, it compensates for man's failures in driving would be maybe more of the benefits instead, right? So the reasons for having them. Saeed is asking, why do we need such cars? Saeed, again, I would probably leave that why question, just like with Romaine, for the controlling ideas of why do we need these cars. Okay. I would ask a different why question for the topic. My why question for the topic is why have or will, right? Remember the question says they're not quite there yet. I think we're almost there, but why will these cars be available, these self-driving cars, in the near future? Okay, so I would ask this question before I would ask the why do we have these cars, or why are we working on these cars, okay? So when you're thinking about the topic, keep it really focused on the topic instead of the human reason. So don't mix the topic with the controlling idea, okay? So this is an important tip here. This is another one of those tips where I want to see some thumbs up to make sure that you got what I'm saying. So avoid mixing the why question, or any question for that matter, but the why question is usually the one we mix. So avoid mixing the why question for the topic and controlling idea. Okay, it's an easy one to mix up. But here for the topic, we're looking more for the definitions of these concepts, right? So does everybody understand that? So being able to separate the why question for the topic and the why question for the controlling idea is an important skill. Sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes they're so close that it's almost unavoidable. But whenever possible, you want to think of different why questions, and you want to think of ones that are specific to each. Yeah, everybody get that? Okay, because it will give you more details to write about in your essay. It will give you better information for your introductory paragraph. Okay, so why will these computer-driven cars be available in the near future? That's more about the topic, right? It's the existence of these self-driven cars. So it is because this technology is rapidly evolving, and some companies are already testing self-driving vehicles. So I'm sure that most of you know that, or maybe all of you know, that companies like Google, Tesla, and I think there's a couple others, they're already testing these self-driving cars. So if you see a car drive past you somewhere without a human sitting in it, don't freak out and don't smash it off the road. It's probably a test car. So if you freak out and you think it's a runaway car and decide to run it off a bridge into the water or something, you're probably destroying $1 million piece of equipment. So careful with that, because they do have them driving around in different parts of the world. Okay, as you know, there's articles about their performance and so on. Okay, so the latest Teslas, in fact, some of them are almost self-driving. So I'm glad that some of you got a good laugh out of that, right? Yeah, it's kind of like when people are with long hair are talking on their handless headset, and we think they're talking to themselves, but they're not. Okay, all right. So, is it because this, it is because this technology is rapidly evolving, and some companies are already testing self-driving cars. So they will likely be on the consumer market very soon. Okay, and then this is where what we mentioned previously. So how do these cars function? And this is where we might take some of what we said before here. So well, I'm just going to copy that and stick it in there. Okay, so hardware, chips, sensors, software, communication, decision-making software, learning software, right? It's helping these cars to drive on their own. Okay. All right, so let's jump to the next set of questions, right? Which is dealing more with the controlling idea, and this is where we're getting into the meat and bones of the essay, right? So what are the benefits of self-driving cars, or of computer-driven cars? Okay. let's see what you come up with. So visualize this. I'm really curious what you will come up with here. So Selena says yes. All right, so what are the benefits? So you have cars that drive themselves. What do you think are the benefits? And this is where it gets kind of interesting. I'm curious what you will say about this. Okay, so what are the advantages? Remember the question here, the original task 2 question in this case, and always come back to the original task 2 question. The original task 2 question in this case is here, okay? The question asks, do you think it is a positive or a negative development? Look at this or here. It's very, very important. Okay, this or is key. Let's make it pink to this question and this answer. Okay, Saeed says safety. Okay, so benefits of computer-driven cars, safety. All right. So Saeed says less time spent on traveling. All right, Cass says they can aid people with disabilities. Yeah, Cass, I think that's not a bad idea, but I think you might be getting into too much detail there. Okay, let's try to stick to some bigger ideas because there's definitely, I think, some lower hanging fruit, so some easier concepts than helping people with disabilities. So safety is one, less time is another. Okay. Romaine says they provide more security since they are more reliable. Romaine, that's the same concept of safety. Okay. Rashika says people can enjoy the journey, focus on meaningful work while traveling. Okay, so efficiency, enjoyment. Okay, so it's more enjoyable. Carolina says less accidents. That's also safety. Okay, so the topic there is safety, less accidents. Less time. Why would there be less time? There would also be less pollution. Cheaper. This is, I think one of the big reasons we don't have self-driving cars everywhere yet is because it's going to be a lot cheaper, and that's going to cause problems for a lot of big companies. Okay, so cheaper as well. Okay, we have a lot of ideas here. So in fact, there are so many reasons for the benefit of self-driving vehicles that we have to be careful not to run out of time and write too many ideas with too little detail. Okay, so here's another important tip. Okay, when you have a lot of great ideas for task 2, be very careful to focus on 2 or 3 good ideas so that you can provide detail without running out of time. So I don't know if I would focus on all of these points. Okay, all right. So there are a lot of advantages to this, right? One advantage even is cities will be more beautiful. So landscapes will become more beautiful because we don't need traffic lights. We don't need all those ugly traffic signals and traffic signs. Just imagine your city without all those traffic lights, without all those stop signs, without all those signs everywhere. Imagine how pretty your city would look. Cars don't need it because they would be programmed to know that information for the city, right? Every automobile would be updated with the latest traffic signals and traffic regulations. So you wouldn't need all those ugly signs. Just imagine. Okay, but to write about all of that, it may be difficult. All right, so, I mean, without really, rushing, we can ask what are the negatives. So what are the negatives of computer-driven cars? Okay. Saeed says no tickets, so no speeding violations. Yeah, it would actually decrease criminal activity as well, right? With self-driving cars, of course, because you wouldn't be able to rob a bank and then drive away real fast. That just wouldn't work, right? So even crime crime rates would be positively affected. Yeah, absolutely. So what are the negatives? What are the negatives of Saeed, good thinking. I like how you're thinking outside the box. No tickets. Yeah, you're not going to get a speeding ticket with a self-driving car. Saeed says something might go wrong in the software. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Should we entrust Apple or Microsoft to create the software for these self-driving cars? I'd be a little bit worried about my car updating its software all the time with Microsoft. It might take me a long time to get to work if it decides to do a Windows update for 20 minutes every morning before going to work when I start the car. So yeah, you could have software malfunction, some accidents, or probably not lots, okay? So yeah, now at the end of the day, we already have that danger, right? So cars already have a lot of computers in them, cars already have a lot of software, so we already have that danger of software malfunction in cars already. But that's about it. There's not a lot of negatives, and going back to the positives, one we didn't even talk about is roomier. Okay, so you'd probably have more spacious cars if you don't have the steering wheel and the steering column and so on. Okay. May Rentillo says maybe expensive maintenance. Yeah, it could be more expensive. Yeah, expensive to buy and maintain, quite possibly. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the original question. Then I think we can now decide and come up with our thesis statement. So do you think this is a positive or negative? Students, when you see this or in the question, okay, it's really important. So when you see or in the question, you should be focusing on one side, not on both. So if you write an essay like there are both positive and negatives to this development, you probably will not get a great score on that essay, especially for a question like this where clearly one side is easier to argue than the other side. Okay, so when you see or in the question, you should focus on one side, not both, especially if one side is clearly easier to argue, as it is in this case. Okay, and we can definitely see that in this case, the positives of self-driving cars or computer-driven cars are far more beneficial than not. I can't wait for the day, to be honest with you. I'm probably quite biased. Okay. Lamia says it needs regular maintenance. I'm not sure, Lamia, if that's actually a negative, that it needs regular maintenance. Cars already need regular maintenance, so I don't know if that in itself is a negative. Okay, so now we want a thesis statement. Students, task 2, essays that score band 7 to 9 must have a clear and direct thesis statement. not in this essay, I will discuss the benefits and deficits of self-driving cars. Okay, that's a bad thesis statement. Okay. So this is a low quality thesis. Okay, don't write that. So many students write that, and it's really frustrating to see that because you don't get points for that on your essay. Okay. All right, so you need a great thesis statement, and with this essay, it's so easy to make a great thesis statement because you have so many good thesis points like safety and efficiency, okay, and cheaper. Okay, so I would write an essay like this, thesis like this: the development of computer driven cars is a great benefit to humanity, not only because of improved safety, but also because of greater efficiency. Now I want to make sure that's parallel grammar form, so I'm thinking of how to change that because of improved safety and increased efficiency. Yeah, let's go with that. Okay, so increased efficiency. All right, improved safety, but also because of increased efficiency. All right, so I can start with those two, and then if I have a lot of time and I can add a third paragraph, especially in the computer-based exam, I can always go back and add another point to my thesis to make it a 5-paragraph essay. But if I run out of time after doing 2 paragraphs, then yeah, I don't need more, okay? All right, welcome, Kyber. Okay, so that's my thesis. So in this thesis, it's really clear that I've got my thesis point 1, which is improved safety, and I've got my thesis point 2, which is increased efficiency, okay? And that's my thesis. So now I am going to start my essay with the introductory paragraph. Okay, and the introductory paragraph should start with a hook, okay? And it's good to have a hook. I like how now I can see that more and more people taking the IELTS exam realize that hooks are important, so that strange previous notion of, oh, my teacher says the essay doesn't need a hook, it's starting to disappear, and more teachers and more students are realizing that, oh yeah, hooks are an important part of an introduction. You need to catch the reader's attention, you need to introduce the topic, right? So the hook can be, many companies are racing to develop computer-driven automobiles. Okay, just like that. And it's true. Companies are definitely in a technology race to be the first ones to get approved for self-driving vehicles. I guarantee you the first company that comes out with a fully approved self-driving vehicle will experience a stock price increase of 200-300% potentially that very day on the stock market. Okay. Yeah, Kyber, we have daylight savings in North America from the 13th. So, okay. All right, so Saeed says, personally, I do think that the development of computer-driven cars is a huge benefit for society since they will encourage both safety and efficiency. It's good, Saeed. I don't think, Saeed, you need to go first-person voice on this. I think you can go objective third-person voice based on the question. Okay. Kyber. Yep, I've got that. Hook. Saeed says, it is true that the number of self-driving cars is increasing day by day. Yeah, I don't think they're publicly available yet, Saeed, but there are more and more being tested. Rashika says, I think driver's less cars. Rashika, it's not like that. It's like this, driverless cars. I believe it would be one word. Yeah, driverless. When it's something less, Rashika, it's usually one word. So driverless cars, one word, driverless cars. Okay. Careful with that. Otherwise, it's quite confusing. Okay. Hi, Andre. Okay, so again, many companies are racing to develop computer-driven automobiles. All right, and then here we have the background. And again, the background is definitions and importance of the question, right? So why are we asking this question of self-driving cars? What is a self-driving car? So these robotic vehicles controlled purely by hardware and software instead of human operators will revolutionize the transportation and civilization, right? So by revolutionizing transportation systems, they will also revolutionize human civilization. There's no question about that. So that's why it's important to talk about it, right? So here I have both my definition of hardware and software, right? And I also have the reason for the importance of this question. It's because it's going to change our way of life. No question about that, right? Just like cars changed our way of life when we switched from horses to cars. Self-driving cars is definitely the next evolution of transportation. It's like we're going back to horses. Horses were kind of self-driving, right? You could fall asleep on a horse, and then yeah, we're kind of going back to horses, but they're robotic horses. Take me home there, Betsy, and then the horse just takes you home. Okay, hook and background, quite straightforward here. Many companies are racing to develop computer-driven automobiles. These robotic vehicles controlled purely by hardware and software instead of human operators will revolutionize transportation and civilization. Sure. Yeah, is that good or is it bad? So now I just need my thesis statement. And all I do is take that and plop it in. Okay. The development of computer-driven cars is a great benefit to humanity, not only because of improved safety, but also because of increased efficiency. All right. Yeah, Mal got a kick out of that. Horses. Yeah, we're back to horses. Self-driving cars. All right. Okay, so here's my introductory paragraph. Now I can read this and check it, make sure it makes sense. Okay. So many companies are racing to develop computer-driven automobiles. These robotic vehicles controlled purely by hardware and software instead of human operators will revolutionize transportation and civilization. The development of computer-driven cars is a great benefit to humanity, not only because of improved safety, but also because of increased efficiency. Yeah, okay, so I'm good there, and I'm ready to write this essay now. Okay. Cass, your hook. There's a trend nowadays for companies to devise AI-powered vehicles. Yeah, that works, Cass. I like it. It's clear. It's good. It's to the point. Band 9 so far. Hook's good. Saeed's background. Let me put it on. Let me make a chimera here. Let me put it on the end of Cass's hook. Even some engineers expect that such cars will replace manual driving in the upcoming future. Okay, yeah, that could be a part of the background. So the expectation. Remember, Saeed, for the background to give a definition of what is a computer-driven car for your reader, right? All right. Rashika writes, demand for computer-driven cars has been increasing day by day. Yeah, I think that's a good way, Rashika, to start it as well. Okay. All right. And Carolina has even put a little automobile out there for us. Okay, so students, I think we have a really good idea of what we're doing. So tomorrow we'll finish this essay with body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2. I'll stop there for now. And again, I mean, it took us, 40, 45 minutes to get here. In the IELTS exam, you need to complete your essay in this time, but believe me, when you practice these steps at home, you will get to this point within the first 10 minutes, okay? Of course, there isn't a ton of explanation by me. Plus, in the real exam, you're doing most of the critical thinking in your head, not on paper, right? So, okay. Again, everybody, this lesson today, right now, is presented to you by aehelp.com. For academic IELTS, visit us there. For the general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. On both of those websites, we've got a lot of help for you. This is general IELTS here, gieltshelp.com. Click this red button to join the premium package. We're certified British Council agents, test registration center. And then for the academic, it's the blue background, aehelp.com. Click that big red button and use the discount code 1BANDUP to get a 20% discount from the price of the premium package. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access, no subscription fees, just a one-time payment. And then you can use it as long as you need to. We are trying to simplify life. You're very welcome, Tatiana, Cass, great work. Kyber, thank you for joining in. Yeah, Kyber, pay attention to the daylight savings change. Rashika, nice work today. Saeed, good fast writing. Keep that up. Okay, students, I will be back in 30 minutes. With reading. This will be a reading class for everyone, and we will do some student reading in this class. So come back in half an hour, join me for some reading, and I will see you shortly. Bye for now.